These practices, which Buddhism shares, not directly, but shares similar practices, so practices that are similar to other religions, are a way of developing wholesome qualities of mind, developing humility, generosity, kindness, these are kind practices that are easy to do. They take, children can do them at any age. We see when you get little children to try to meditate, they cannot do that generally, but they can do these practices, and they can become very enjoyable to people. So we have this foundation in Buddhism. I think that's always been there. It's been there since the time of the Buddha, because it was part of religious culture at the Buddha's time, which nourishes Buddhism and develops is a very powerful instrument in develop wholesome qualities of mind. Now, what is uniquely Buddhist? These are very similar. What's uniquely Buddhist is the Noble Eightfold Path, and that is most religions, as far as I can see, are not flowers. They're kind of bushes or clumps of grass. That is, they have the roots and the leaves. They can accept nourishment. They can be very powerful in their own way. But they do not generally, lead to the perfection of character. That is, they cannot perfect the human character in all of its details. They cannot develop complete purity of mind. I say they cannot, actually they probably do sometimes. There are people that emerge from those religions that probably even have awakening experiences, but they are very unique individuals. What Buddhism offers is a path towards awakening. It offers a stem that leads up to the blossom. That path is very carefully laid out by the Buddha. If you undertake that path, you are guaranteed to make progress. You may not reach awakening in this lifetime, depending on your karma that you're born with, and the amount of effort you put in and time into your practice. But this is what differentiates Buddhism, I think. Other religions may have other aspects that I'm not even aware of that differentiate them in some way or another. But the Noble Eightfold Path, the path towards awakening, is fairly unique to Buddhism. I think maybe some forms of Hinduism may have something similar, but Buddhism is the only world religion, really, that I know of that has this. So what you do is you have a set of practices that are laid out that you can ignore as a Buddhist. You can stay down in the roots and leaves and live your whole life quite happily as a Buddhist. You can actually develop quite well, be very content. You're surrounded by people who are very wholesome and have strong practices, usually in a Buddhist community. But it takes a little bit of effort to decide, I'm going to go up the stem. And then when you go up the stem, you're on the path. You're studying the suttas, you're studying the Dhamma, you are meditating, ideally, if you intend to go all of the way, and of course practicing virtue. But you're using the energy that you've gained from the roots and leaves, that you've gained from the community, and so really that layer of religiosity at the bottom, the roots and leaves, are what gather nourishment from the triple gem, from the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And they give you the ability to start up the stem. And so that stem and the blossom are fairly, not entirely, but fairly unique to Buddhism. And so that is why it's integrated. One thing you'll notice is you cannot have a stem and a blossom without the roots and leaves. You can have the roots and leaves without the stem and the blossom. So that's why Buddhist practice starts with the stem and the leaves. As a Westerner, we do not, that comes to Buddhism, most Westerners come to Buddhism because they read about it. They begin with the Dhamma, and then usually they very quickly, reading the Dhamma, they're ready to try to go up the stem. And it's like, it's part of Western culture, certainly American and Canadian, to excel. If you take something up, to do it wholeheartedly. There's definitely a deficit because they do not have in their background that religiosity, those vows, that you teach your kids at a very early age. They make a huge difference. They won't by themselves start, your kids or your kids when they get older, up the Eightfold Path, up the path towards awakening. Usually they have to, experience some suffering or something, realize that life is not as easy as sometimes children grow up thinking. But when they are ready to go up the path, they have this background, this very, very deep respect for the triple gem, for the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Plus, from the community and from their practices, they've developed a degree of humility, kindness, generosity, some very wholesome qualities of mind. So they're already, they already have a launching pad that is developed, and they're ready to begin their practice. So that is how Buddhism is like a flower.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
So any questions? I hope to get a talk about the Satipatthana Sutta before I leave.